If the Cowboys pick a receiver in the first round, which one best fits them, and what second or third round offensive lineman could the Cowboys target in this year's draft? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, how you doing today, sir?
Doing well. We are getting closer and closer. We've got some tight ends that we're going to talk about a little bit later this week. But I got a fun little surprise dropped on me this morning about what we're going to be chatting in the pod today.
Yes. So in case you missed it, right before the show came on, I released my first 7-round mock draft at the game day. And it's picks for every team, explanations for every single pick. It came in about 17,000 words, Landon. So it took me a little bit of time to write.
Wow.
So if you guys get too upset about a pick in the 6th round, please don't get too mad. But I'm going to have you live react to what happened to the Cowboys and what you think about the overall draft haul for the Cowboys. So let's start in round 1, and we'll just read some of the names that go off the board before the Cowboys pick. So Derek Stingley goes to Washington. Garrett Wilson goes to Houston. Jordan Davis is off the board to Baltimore. Trevor Penning goes to the Chargers. Kyle Hamilton to the Eagles at 18. Zion Johnson goes to the Saints at number 19. George Karlaftis off the board at 21 to the Patriots. Chris Olave.
Oh, no. Pin throw.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. Chris Olave to the Packers at 22. Bernard Raymond to the Cardinals at 23. And with the 24th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Treylon Burks, wide receiver, Arkansas. How would you feel about that pick?
I feel like it's a pretty good pick. You know, that's the thing about the 24th overall pick in a lot of these mock drafts is that 24 is not usually where I have the problem, right? I mean, unless there's some guys, there have been a couple of guys that we've seen picked at 24 that I've been like, I don't know, that's too early, it's too rich.
There's not many guys that we hate at that spot. Like, we might rank Kenyon Green higher than Burks or something like that, but we're okay for the most part.
Yeah, and that's how I generally feel about this pick. I think Treylon Burks is a guy that could come in, kind of operate as that big slot type as he's working his way into learning the X position as well. I think there will be, eventually you're going to see a lot of really kind of cool interplay off of the trio that you've got, because they do kind of have a differing skill set, much more so than the trio that you had previously. Now, I'm not suggesting that Cooper is worse wide receiver than Burks, but at the very least, what you have now is kind of a varied skill set that you can kind of use against each other in a way that maybe you couldn't before. I think Burks is a great yak guy. I think he kind of fits that mold of the guy that we've been talking about with wanting to try to make Dak's life a little bit easier, right? Getting him an easy completion and having him power through defensive backs for first downs. I think that's as much as hitting an easy button as you can with anybody in this draft. So I'm a fan of Treylon Burks, and I certainly am not going to get upset with anybody for picking him there at 24.
It feels like this is a solid B+ pick for the Cowboys, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we're going to be as excited as when the Cowboys drafted CeeDee Lamb or Des Bryant, but we recognize, hey, this is a really talented receiver that's a little rough around the edges. It's not probably going to be super pretty as a rookie, but if you can simplify the game plan, just get the ball in his hands, maybe he can give you something that the offense has missed over the last couple of years. But I feel like for the most part, it's a fine pick.
I think the thing here is that there are a lot of guys that you could draft that are developmental wide receivers. There aren't a ton of guys that are guys that you could develop to a much higher upside, but can also give you quality snaps and actually contribute to your team this year the way Treylon Burks can, right? Because I think, you can scheme him opportunities and he can take full advantage and really, really be a contributing force to your offense while learning the actual finer points of becoming a wide receiver and growing into a role where, eventually he may take over a lion's share of the targets later on in his career.
So we come out first night of the draft with Treylon Burks. What are your just thoughts? You're good with that?
Yeah. I think we've talked about it. Like 24 is a spot where and maybe I'm setting myself up for huge disappointment, but I think that 24 is a spot where I have a hard time seeing them get into a spot where they're going to have to take a bad pick, or there's just a good. I feel like when they get to 24, there's going to be options for them. Treylon Burks is one of those options that I like, so I'm certainly on board with it.
I really struggled between Kenyon Green and Treylon Burks, and when I was writing the mock, I kept coming back to what's going to be easier to find in the second round: a left guard or a dynamic receiver that you can get the ball to in space and let them work. And I trusted that I would be able to find a guard. Did that happen? We'll see. Let's take a quick little break so I can tell you guys about Shady Rays, a new sponsor for the show. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. I mean, literally a fraction of the price. That means polarized lens, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something that you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every single pair, and they will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay absolutely nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. And exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com and use promo code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's promo code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season, 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses. All right, so going to round 2, need a guard. Pretty obvious that's the Cowboys' biggest need, and I have them taking Darian Canard, the right tackle from Kentucky, who's going to slide into left guard in the NFL, 340 pounds. Never played the position before. It's a little bit of a projection, but it was just awfully hard for me to pass on him here. Plus, Cowboys have some connections there. They drafted 2 Kentucky guys last year in Kelvin Joseph and Quentin Bohanna. Obviously, they like some people in that coaching staff. What do you think about that pick?
I think it makes a lot of sense. Canard's the guy that you kind of have penciled in as your target there at 56 if you take wide receiver or something in the first round. I mean, that's who you hope you can kind of get to, in the second round as your guard choice, just because I think that he's the guy, despite having not played the position, has the athletic profile, has the size that you want, especially kind of moving off of Connor Williams, where you liked Connor Williams a lot, or at least I liked Connor Williams.
We liked him more than
we liked. I didn't mean we, not you. I meant we, as in the Cowboys Nation, didn't like him very much, but we liked him. You and I liked him. I think that we would both agree that the issue with him, though, is at times that it just never felt like he got the sand in his pants that he needed to kind of hold up and be stout and pass protection against some of the bigger guys. I don't know that's going to be a problem for Canard. Nope. I think for Canard, it's going to be about getting to the second level. It's going to be about operating there. He's athletic for a guy that's 340. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he's playing tackle. But I think that it's still a different thing to try to operate as a guard, to try to get to the second level, to try to block there. I have no doubts he's going to do it. There may be some growing pains as he gets there. But that's what you're getting at 56 when you're drafting an offensive guard. You're not getting the guy that's plug and play, ready to go necessarily. Not that he can't learn the position over training camp, but it's new to him. So there is a little bit of a projection there. So I certainly like the pick, and I know that I would be pretty thrilled if you get to Burks at 24, and then we're able to get all the way to 56 without Canard coming off the board. I feel like you set yourself up for the rest of the draft pretty well.
Yeah, I love this fit for Dallas because you get a massive guy that can just open up big holes in the run game, and that's just something they haven't had from that left guard spot. Like they haven't had a guy that can drive defensive tackles off the ball. He needs work in pass pro, but I think if you move him inside, I kind of
That'll
don't
help.
think it becomes that big of an issue. Like
Yeah.
every once in a while he could get beat with speed, from some edge rushers, but it's just not going to happen that frequently in the NFL at left guard. I think he's a day one starter for you.
Well, and I will say this too. I think Canard's a very heady player, and I think that's a big part of what you need to deal with in pass pro inside, especially nowadays, right? Is making sure your head's on a swivel, making sure that you're targeting folks that are crossing your face, that are moving in loops and stunts. So really, you don't have a huge area to cover when you're playing guard. The athleticism isn't as the mirroring athleticism is important, but the athleticism, like as it is at tackle, is not quite as important. But what is important is targeting, your eyesight, your ability to identify stunts, twists that are happening, and working in conjunction with the center on your right and the left tackle on your left to make sure that things get passed off. And so that will be, I think, his biggest hurdle. If he can get over that, I think he'll be just fine.
All right. So after the first two rounds, Treylon Burks and Darian Canard, how you feeling so far?
We're partying, man. Like we got what we needed, right? Like I think you got two guys that you feel good about sliding into this offense and contributing right away. And you kind of have the monkey off your back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And now you can really go into the rest of the draft. And I'm really excited to see what happens at 88. Is 88, I think, is the next pick?
88. So what position are you looking for at 88?
Well, I mean, the fact that you got those two guys knocked off the board really opens things up. I think you still will be looking tight end. You still would be looking edge rusher. You still could be looking at a defensive tackle, though I think that's going to dry up pretty quick.
It did.
Offensive tackle could be a position that you could be targeting. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was either a tight end, an edge player, maybe a defensive tackle.
So with the 88th pick in the 2020 and 2022 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Sam Williams, edge rusher, Ole Miss.
I thought you were going to go a completely different direction.
No,
like an idiot.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
It makes a lot of sense. Obviously, they've been kicking tires in this guy. The thing here is there's athleticism. He's got the traits. He has production. The issue is the off-field, right? That's what they have to figure out. He even looks like Micah Parsons, just in case you needed to have like a twins competition of some sort, or there's going to be like a double trouble situation where they switch jerseys or something, play a prank on the coach. I like Sam Williams. I think the only issue there is that I have no concept for what the off-field is. There is serious off-field stuff. I don't want to make light of it, but I'm just not knowledgeable to it as most of us aren't. I'm assuming the Cowboys have got their hands around the situation because they're kicking the tires there.
Yep.
And so, this could be one of those situations. When I look at the Sam Williams situation, I look at a situation where it feels like the Cowboys are attempting to bring their superior knowledge to bear to their advantage, right? Like they have, extensive detective work and a scouting department that really dives deep on these folks, maybe deeper than some other teams can. And so this feels like this is a situation where the Cowboys feel like they may know more about the player in a positive manner. And that's what's freeing them to draft this guy and potentially get a bargain for a guy that has very serious talent on the field.
And he fits in terms of like the athletic profile that Dan Quinn wants. Like for that right edge, you've got to be able to run a sub 4.6 40. And he does. Is he the most bendy guy in the world? Nope. But I think he's a little bit like Dante Fowler that way, or Takk McKinley, who was in Atlanta a couple years ago. So I think you draft him at 88. He's probably not active early on in the season because you'll have Dorrance Armstrong, you'll have Fowler, you have DeMarcus Lawrence. You kind of bring him along slowly, and maybe by the end of the year, he's getting some snaps. And the hope is by next year, right, you move on from Dante Fowler and he steps up in that rotational role. I could certainly see that.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty clear, pathway for him.
Yep.
Moving from year 1 to year 2 to year 3.
And you just don't find guys that are that athletic with production in the SEC like that very often. So it's a value pick. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the day 3 guys, but the Dallas Cowboys in the 4th round did pick a tight end, Charlie Kolar from Iowa State at pick 129.
Man, this draft is going very much with a lot of these guys that you really like.
Some of these guys I like. I'm not the biggest Treylon Burks fan in the world, but it just feels like that's kind of the way that we're trending is a draft like this, right?
Yeah. Kohler's a good pick. I mean, I think he's kind of in that group of folks that you like in the 3rd to 4th to 5th round that I think they're all seemingly kind of similar. I mean, he's a receiving tight end who I think, has some ways to go as a blocker, but I think he can get there. I think he can, temporarily provide you some value as a tight end too. I think you're going to need to be a little bit judicious about how you're putting him on the field because I don't know that he's going to be someone that you're going to want to rely on as like a back end. Well, I mean, maybe you will, but I mean, I think you would rather have someone like Sprinkle on the field if you're needing a backside cutoff
early on the field, right? I early on the season, like he might be the tight end 4 to open up the season, but
yeah,
it's fine.
I think and that's the thing is that I feel like that could be the case, and then he could make a much quicker move up the depth chart, obviously, than someone like McCool or someone that like kind of was injured and kind of had to keep coming back. This guy has a little bit better pedigree than that guy. So I think that, this is someone that, especially in the 4th round, you'll get him. You may not see a ton from him early on, but as the season goes on, if there's an injury or something, he'll get some snaps, and then you'll start to kind of see him peppered into the plays a little bit. Really, I think you're going to start seeing his impact in the next season, next year. And that's where you'll start to see him like kind of really come on and actually get some serious playing time.
I mean, if they can grab somebody like Charlie Kohler in the 4th round, I would love that. It'd be a fantastic fit for them. Maybe he's a high-end tight end too a year from now. Maybe if he continues to develop as a blocker, he becomes a Dalton Schultz level tight end 2-3 years from now. But hey, it's a worthwhile gamble in the 4th round. Just running through the rest of their picks. I've got them taking Cameron Dicker, the kicker from Texas, at pick 155 in the 5th round. I'm sure everybody's fine with that. Your receiver from Texas Tech, Eric Zukanama, I believe is how you say his name.
Sure. Okay.
Sure. Hassan Haskins, running back from Michigan, at pick 176. Another defensive end in the 5th round, Jeffrey Gunter from Coastal Carolina, hits a lot of the same thresholds that Dan Quinn likes. And I believe, one more, Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver from Baylor. Yes, that's Baylor. 3 receivers in this draft. Thornton has a ton of speed. So you're just throwing numbers at the position. But overall, what are your thoughts on this draft?
Eazy is a very similar player to Burks. I think Eazy actually a Burks starter kit in a lot of ways. So you're getting kind of another player that could potentially fill in that role. He could probably do some more things. And the other thing, too, is that I think Burks, as he develops, can be more than just what he is currently. I think he can be your starting X down the road. Yeah, absolutely. I think, and then maybe what you do is you transition this guy into kind of that pepper in role, right? As a guy that you're trying to find snaps for. I have a feeling with the guy like his size that he's going to be a pretty valuable special teams player. What's the name of the Baylor kid again? Thornton, is that
Tyquan Thornton from Baylor. Yep.
Yeah, I mean the guy's just a track star. I mean Baylor is just got all kinds of these guys, right? They're coming out this year, or crazy fast.
6'2.5", 181, 4.28 at the combine.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of, and I haven't watched a ton of him, but he sort of reminds me of Tyler Lockett a little bit. Yeah, like he's kind of like slight and he gets downfield like
he's bigger than that, but very slight build but fast. So hey, it's a dart throw, right? Just this is an elite athlete. Keep him on our practice squad for a year or two. Maybe he'll develop into the next Jalen Guyton. You never know.
Yeah. Oh man. Someone brought Jalen Guyton's name up the other day, and I was like, hey, I tried to tell them, guys. I don't know why you're coming to me about this. I mean, I think that's the thing. The Cowboys have been really good about finding and developing down roster wide receivers. They haven't always been good about holding on to them, but they've been good about developing them at least. So I think dart throws at the wide receiver position makes a lot of sense, especially since you've lost so many folks in that spot. And the folks that you do have currently outside of CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup are, pretty short-term contract folks. So this is kind of filling your depleted wide receiver room.
And you draft Cameron Dicker, the kicker. How awesome would that be, right? All the memes would be so good. So overall, not an awful draft. The Cowboys came more you this haul. You'd feel okay?
Oh, I feel good. Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, if you get a starting offensive guard and a starting wide receiver that you feel like can make a difference in year one as well as year three, I think you got to be satisfied with the way things out. I mean, you didn't do this with any trades or any moving around. No. This is all just a straight draft. So, I mean, as far as those kind of drafts go, this was a really good job, and I think Cowboys fans should and would be happy with this.
Well, thank you. It only took me like 20 hours to get it done. So I already saw somebody complaining about a 6th-round pick that I had. So it's
maybe you should write some more words about it, Marcus. You sure 17,000 is enough to explain yourself?
The editor's like, hey, would you be able to do another one of these before the draft? I'm like, no, I can't.
Yeah, I can't. If I start now, I'll have it done like about an hour before the draft starts.
No, listen, trying to do a 7-round mock draft is painful. I sat down on my computer, got on a simulator just to like have it play out, and it's like I was just 75 picks. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I hate my life. So, all right. I've got a question about picking a receiver in the first round for you.
Yeah.
Right, but before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Built Bar. This time of year, almost everybody has given up on their New Year's resolutions, but not us. We are sticking to ours to eat better, thanks to Built Bar, partly because it's just so easy, so much fun to eat Built Bars. They're covered in 100% real chocolate, with most Built Bars only containing 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to your average candy bar that has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Plus, they've got so many great flavors, including mint brownie, coconut almond, and the new flavor this month is white chocolate cookies and cream. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, we saw another big contract today at the wide receiver market. Stephon Diggs got a deal that's going to basically tie him in Buffalo for the next several years. It's paying him an average of $24 million, I believe, a year.
Yeah.
I saw today that Amari Cooper is now, I believe, the 9th highest paid wide receiver in the league. That happened pretty fast. And it's going to continue to go down with guys like A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, all scheduled to get deals this offseason. Does it make financial sense now with the rising price of wide receivers and in free agency and just in the market in general to pick a receiver in the first round because you get that extra 5th year and because it's just so beneficial to have a receiver on a cheap contract like that?
I think it's certainly beneficial if you can get somebody of that ilk, right? Of that tier that is playing at a level that commands that top end wide receiver money in the draft like that. Yes, I think that value is only going to increase because the wide receiver contracts are probably only going to increase, right? But I think the problem is that I think having a rookie, a talented rookie quarterback on a rookie deal is without a doubt fantastic. Well, let me rephrase this. I think that despite what happens at quarterback, I don't know that it's a 1-for-1 situation with wide receiver, because I do think that there are cases where you can get diminishing returns. At the quarterback position, you can't overpay a quarterback.
No, you can't.
No. It's just not possible.
They're of a certain caliber, right?
What'd you say?
As long as they're of a certain caliber.
Yeah.
If you're paying a bad quarterback, yes.
Once they meet a certain threshold, like you literally cannot overpay a quarterback because quarterbacks' value to their team is so ridiculously out of proportion to the percentage of what they're paid on the cap, right? Like they're just more valuable than what they get paid on the cap, despite how outrageous it may seem, right? Yes. I think with wide receiver, you can make that argument can be made a lot easier going the other way. I think that, wide receiver is a position that if you pay a guy, he certainly can be worth it. Absolutely. And worth way more than what you paid him. But I also think that because of the volatility at the position and because it's reliant on other factors, there are times when that contract can seem really good and really bad and really good. Yes. So I think that, yes, the answer is still yes, that drafting a top end wide receiver in the first round, locking him in at that rate and getting a 5th year on top of that is still incredible value for a top end wide receiver. I think the difference between that and quarterback is that even when your 5 years are up with quarterback, you're going to re-sign that quarterback if he's good enough. You're going to pay whatever it takes to re-sign him. I don't know that that's always the case at wide receiver, because I don't know that every top end wide receiver that you would have to pay at that rate is always going to be worth, or his contract is always going to be a valuable contract throughout the life of the contract.
So one of the things I keep coming back to is, let's say you strike out at receiver, or you strike out at left guard, you have to go to free agency to fill that spot. Not the Cowboys, but just in general, like a team that needs to go get a receiver in free agency, like Jacksonville this year. You're going to have to end up paying, I don't want to say Christian Kirk is an average player, but like slightly above average, right? You're paying him great money because that's just what the market dictates, right? Where if you need a left guard, like James Daniels, who signed with the Steelers, right? Played with the Bears. He went for like $8 million, right? And he's a really good player. It's just way easier and way more financially responsible to go out and pay a guard rather than overpaying a receiver twice, sometimes 3 times as much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, it goes back to the, some of the reasons that Cooper's not here anymore, right? Is that when there's a certain point when that value of that contract it's not worth it anymore. You're underwater, right? And that's why it's, kind of a double-edged sword for some of these wide receivers who sign these long-term contracts, right? If they can produce at that level for the length of the contract, then that's great. But if they have 2 or 3 years off where they're not producing at that level, and it's a 4-year deal, suddenly you're underwater in the value there. So
I just think it's easier to go out in free agency, and I feel okay overpaying a guard if I have to $10 million rather than overpaying an average receiver $18 million. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think just simply for the fact that you feel like you'll get that minimum value a lot easier, and it's not reliant on a lot of other factors in the same way that wide receiver can be.
Yeah, it's really why we came up with this money 5 position, or not we, but we've all talked about it, right? Yeah. There's 5 positions that are really valuable in the NFL. Draft those positions, spend a lot of money on those ones, because everywhere else you can kind of fill in, and it's not super expensive to do it. Look at the off the ball linebacker market this year. Yeah. And you can get guys like Kazir White for $3 million. If you needed a linebacker, you can get guys so cheap. So don't spend a first-round pick on a linebacker, even if it's a really good prospect. I love Nakobe Dean. I think he's fantastic. It would be a terrible pick for Dallas, just because you can find those type of guys out there.
Yeah, and again, it's not even just the contract itself. It's the opportunity cost. You just don't get a lot of opportunities to pay talented players at that level, right? At the level of what the rookie wage scale is. So, I think that if you use it on a linebacker, you're just not taking full advantage of the money that can be saved. And again, we could say it again. Everyone talks about the Emmitt Smith, the Ezekiel Elliott contract, and how much of an overpay is. The reason you can even stomach some of that stuff is that you have to find margins in other areas where you get some value in order to make up for that. Tyron Smith's contract is one of them, but stuff like this, that's get a wide receiver on a cheap rookie deal. Don't try to get an off-ball linebacker.
I have 2 of them on rookie deals, like CeeDee Lamb and Burks in this example that we just did.
And look, and here's the thing: look at Leighton Vander Esch, right? Okay, not like a top end linebacker, nothing like that.
Very average, right?
But average, right? NFL average, right?
Yes.
Not a poo-poo level, replacement level linebacker.
Average, yep.
He got paid nothing. Nothing. The Cowboys
got the vet minimum. Basically the vet minimum.
So it's like I guarantee you that Nakobe Dean's a better player than Leighton Vander Esch is right now. But is he, X amount better? What I'm saying? Are you really getting a huge savings there? I don't know that you are,
I feel that way with safeties too, especially the way the safety market has been the last couple of years. The Cowboys are going to pay Donovan Wilson, Malik Hooker, and Jaron Kearse less than $10 million total this year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're paying those guys absolutely nothing. So a couple of positions that you can fade in the draft and in free agency. A couple that you need to spend up on. I think wide receivers probably one that the Cowboys should draft. If not in the first round, certainly in the second round this year. It's just to be interesting if the right guy is available to them. All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can find us wherever you find your podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about some day 3 tight end prospects that the Cowboys have already shown interest in, assuming they don't have big breaking free agency news. So we'll be back tomorrow talking about tight ends. I can guarantee it. Follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We'll see you guys on Thursday.